just a large quick Father. Yeah, Father, I pray that you speak your words through Adam, and that you just use him as your vessel. And yeah, Father. Yeah, I want to pray all this in your son's name.
Do I need a mic? Cool. It's kind of weird me being up here because I very much remember sitting where you guys are, the large room. We held large groups in this room, I think my first and second year, and so for me to be speaking to you guys, it's kind of weird. But it's, I guess, a funny way of coming full circle. I don't think I ever would have believed that I'd be your guys' staffer or even be here in SLO after graduating. And, you know, if you went back and told freshman Adam that he needed to be a Christian before coming to college, I think he would have thought you were insane. I didn't grow up Christian, I didn't grow up in the church. I was saved here at Cal Poly. And it's kind of cool because, you know, the theme for this year is Inside Out. And I know that the quarter sub-theme is foundational love. And, you know, I was trying to think of what to talk about for tonight. And I don't know, I felt compelled to share my testimony because I feel like I could come up with a message, I could come up with something, I don't know, that I could try to teach to you guys, but I feel like with the theme of this year being inside out, like the idea of God's love filling us up and overflowing out of us to be able to spread the good news, to share his gospel, to bring people to his kingdom, I felt that why not look at an example of that? Somebody who very much was changed by that love, and that's what I plan to do today. I know that the theme verse, or one of the theme verses for this, this quarter is 1 John 4:19, and it's we love because he first loved us, and I find it kind of funny because that was the theme verse of my freshman year, and so in a way it's kind of captures this story of me getting to know God in this setting, which was instrumental in me even getting to know him. But you know, I think of that verse, we love because he first loved us, and I almost kind of read it as if instead of we love because he first loved us, just knowing that God is love and knowing that through his love we get to have life, I kind of read it as we live because he first loved us. And I think for me and my testimony, I think that really captures just how my journey has been with God. Like I said, I did not grow up as a Christian. My mom is Catholic by culture. I'm half Filipino, and she was raised to go to Catholic Mass, and so she took us to Sunday Mass every weekend, but it wasn't something that I found particularly interesting. I just knew that if I sat through an hour of service, we got to get, like, I don't know, McDonald's or something afterwards, and so that sounded pretty appealing. But I didn't really have a relationship with God. I just kind of understood him to be somebody that existed, and I had a very flawed view of him. I think I just thought of him as somebody that he was like a guy in the sky just pulling the levers of our lives and pushing the buttons to make things happen. And if you were super good, you were rewarded, and if you were super bad, you got punished. And I remember thinking that prayer was like if you just ask really, really, really hard, he'd give you what you want, like a genie, which obviously is not true, but that's what I thought. And so I kind of went my childhood with that flawed view of God, and I really had no reason to want him in my life. I think I saw people who claimed they were Christian, and I saw what they did outside of church, and I was like, I don't believe you. But there was nothing in my life that really made me feel like that was a necessary part of my life. I felt like I could just continue doing what I was doing, and God wouldn't necessarily make that any better or any worse. So for me, it was like kind of just not a ton of value added. It was, I think, my high school years is when stuff for me started to get very difficult. I remember just getting like absolutely destroyed in school, and I remember the way the classes worked. In middle school, we went from having classes with the same people, and you got really used to them. And you saw them all day, every day, into high school where you have like random classes with different people. So I think that was hard to adjust to. I had a girlfriend at the time, and then we broke up, which sucked, and so that was also not fun to deal with. My at-home life, my parents, there was some just things that I think caused some stress and strain in their relationship, which unfortunately affected me and my sister. And so it just really felt like at that time, especially my freshman year, that my life sucked. That's what I genuinely felt. I felt like my life sucked. Like school's hard. I don't like going to school. Then I come home and I don't like being at home. Like I just felt miserable all the time. And I just remember things. It just felt like nothing ever got better. I would try to change things up. I would try to reach out to people who I didn't really know, but because I didn't have a ton of friends, I was trying, and it just felt like nothing I did worked. And I grew very frustrated and angry, and I think ultimately I was just so worried and anxious about so many things that I got very depressed, to be honest. And I'm going to be real with you guys because as your staffer, I want you guys to know who I am, and so it'd be a shame for me to withhold like my full story. But I definitely thought about suicide. I definitely was heavily contemplating it at some points, at some of my lower points. And in particular, there was a point where I was so done that I was like fully prepared to just end everything. I didn't want to. There was nothing I felt like worth living for, to be honest. And I know that's really sad, and I know that's really hard to probably hear, but that's how I felt. And I felt like the only way out is to just leave. And I don't know why though, but for some reason, I thought to pray. Which sounds bananas because I didn't even know God. But I just remember I tried to pray, but it wasn't really, it was prayer, but it was more like me telling God like my wish list of things he could fix in my life because it sucked. And I just remember praying that and then expecting like immediate results because that's how I thought God worked. I thought if I it's like Amazon, if I click Amazon Prime, it should get here in 1 to 2 business days, but if it doesn't, then I'm filing a complaint. And that wasn't the case, and I don't think God answered my prayers if he received it the way that I had hoped he would answer them. So I just remember in my state of misery and self-appreciation and all that loveliness, I was like, well, this is dumb. Like, why would I ever want to have a relationship with somebody like that? Like, they can't. You're supposed to be able to help me. You're supposed to. You say you love everybody, yet I'm getting my life sucks. Like, why would I want anything to do with you? And I think from that point on, I really didn't want anything to do with God. And at my lowest point, I remember I was home alone, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. Obviously, I didn't from here. And the reason why I didn't is because I remember I was sitting in my dining room, and my kitchen counter is like a firm surface. I don't really know the material. I'm blanking on it. But I just remember the window was open. There was a glass cup on the counter. And I remember in that thought process of okay, I'm just so done. I want to go. In the moment, I remember the glass cup. It was empty, but it's a glass cup. It's pretty hefty. It just fell. And when glass hits something hard, it's a pretty loud noise. And I remember that just jolted me. I was like, that scared me, and I didn't really know what to do because I thought it broke, and it just kind of woke me up from whatever trance I was in. And I went to go pick it up and set it back up, and I just remember feeling like I couldn't get back to the place I was in to think about actually going forward with it. And I think from that moment on is when I was able to kind of start taking steps to actually improve and get better and not be in such a pit. But I just remember that moment because physically, I couldn't explain to you how that happened. You know, I don't remember a gust of wind blowing that over, and I don't remember how that happened. All I know is that the glass cup fell over, and the loud sound woke me up. And from then on, I kind of started figuring out how to live again. And that honestly affected me a lot, that whole ordeal. I think from that point on, it made me see myself differently in terms of my self-worth and my own confidence and just my worth, like my worth and like how I was viewed by other people. Like I think I needed affirmation that I was lovable, that I had purpose, or that, like I said, I had worth. And I think from that point on, I wanted to like be around people that would accept me for who I was, or at least if they wouldn't accept me for who I was, at least try to be somebody that they would accept. So it was kind of me in high school trying to pretend to be somebody I was not, to fit in, just so I could feel like I was worth the time to hang out with and spend time with. And it was in, I think, my senior year where I think I finally found like a group of people that I could actually hang out with. There were people that we would hang out after school, and I could actually talk to them about stuff beyond just like how school was going or what sports teams were playing. And I think that was awesome. I remember thinking like, wow, like I finally found like my group and my people, my community that I wanted so desperately for so long. And I remember it was great up until roughly like the spring of my senior year. It's really stupid, it's a really petty thing, but basically they kicked me out of the friend group because, so in the group there was some girls and some guys, and I was friends with one of the girls in the group for a while, and we agreed to go to prom together as friends because, I don't know, I wanted to enjoy my senior prom with somebody that like I was cool with, so I felt like, oh yeah, that's fine, why not? So after the senior prom, I think she expected me to be more than just a date. She expected me to be her boyfriend, which I said no, and she didn't like that, and so she decided, okay, well, Adam doesn't want me, and he can't be our friend, and so she kicked me out of the friend group. And it's really petty, it's really stupid, and I just remember thinking, you know, at the end of my senior year, it's supposed to be like, you know, the best year of your life in high school. No, but it's not, guys, come on. But I just remember thinking, dang, this sucks. Like, my senior year is like ruined because now I don't even have friends to enjoy like the senior field trip to Disneyland with, or I can't, you know, on senior sunset, I can't like, there's nobody to like hang out with, take pictures and make memories with because I don't have any friends. Like, it sucked to end high school seemingly the same way I started. And I just knew that coming to Cal Poly, I wanted to not go through that. You know, I was like, I want to make friends and meet people that I don't have to prove myself to. Like, I don't want to have to like put on this mask and pretend that I'm this person so that you'll like me. I just want you to actually like me and be friends with me because like you do, and I want to be friends with people like the same way, like have an actual genuine relationship. And so when I came to Cal Poly, I met some people for a while, and I'll get to that in a bit, but for the most part I didn't really make like a ton of friends. I'm not exactly the most social, like outgoing person in class. I am 100% the person that used to sit in the very back and sit on my phone all day, which also probably explains my horrible grades, but you know, that's another thing. But I just remember like still feeling alone when I got to college, and I remember it was probably like the 4th week of school, 4th or 5th week, and it's a Friday night, 7 p.m. And I was in my room, in my bed, watching Netflix by myself. That's pretty exciting, I know. But I remember whatever I was watching, in between like episodes, it's like a black screen, so you can see your reflection. And so I just remember I'm like watching my show, and it's a black screen, I just see myself, it's like, oh, dang. That kind of sucks. And it was crazy because I basically had like a quarter life crisis because like this is not at all what I wanted college to be. This is not what the movie said. And so in that moment I was like, okay, I gotta figure this out because I can't keep doing this for another 3 years, 4 years, however long I'm gonna be here. And it's funny because at the time, one of the classes I was in was Denise 250, Healthy Living 101, something like that. And I remember in the class that one of the things they were talking about was there's 6 aspects of health. And for you to be a fully healthy person, you need to have all those aspects adequately fulfilled. You don't have to be perfect, but they need to be addressed. And I remember, I couldn't tell you all the 6, but I just know that spiritual was one of them. And that if I were to grade that out of a 10, it was probably like a negative 50. So I figured I'd start there and figure out how to work my way towards potentially being a healthy person. Because I figured, I don't know, my lifestyle doesn't seem that sustainable. It doesn't seem like a healthy person should be home alone on a Friday night watching Netflix by himself. So I decided to explore that part of my life that was non-existent. And fortunately for me, one of the friends I did make in WoW was somebody that was coming to AA. And he introduced me to some people as well, but for the most part, he invited me to come a couple times, but I didn't feel comfortable going. I remember him explaining like what we do now, and I was like, that sounds weird. It sounds like a cult, honestly. I remember he said AA, and I was like, are you talking about car insurance? And I just remember I went with him to my first large group, and it was such an interesting experience for me because I don't think I'd ever interacted with people who were so genuine. Like, I didn't have to pretend like to sell myself to you. Like, I didn't have to pretend that I'm this, or like, they just seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. They seemed genuinely interested in getting me to come out to more stuff and to like invite me to things and get me to play basketball with them, which I did eventually. And I just remember feeling like, wow, like this is so different than anything I've experienced with people before. Like I don't know what it is, but these people are just so nice, but it doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel forced or manufactured. It feels genuine. Some other aspects of the large group were also weird though. I remember when we turned off the lights to pray for worship, I didn't know what was going on, so I thought we were like gonna do some like ritual or I thought I was gonna get jumped, to be honest. But like, I just remember that was weird. And then worship was like they sang about blood, and I was all right, this is too much for me. But I think just the genuineness of people and their intentionality kind of drew me in, and I wanted to keep at least seeing what that was about. And for the rest of that quarter, I started going out to AA on Fridays, but I think over time it was just really easy and convenient because, I don't know, it was nice people, it was fun to hang out with, we do a lot of fun stuff. They play basketball, which I loved, and we played Thursday nights, which meant that they would invite me to large group the next night, and I felt really guilty if they saw me on Thursday, but I didn't actually go to large group. So in a way, they like baited me with basketball. But I just felt like, I don't know, I was just going for the people, and it was really fun, but I think because I knew that there was a basketball tournament in the winter, I figured I'll just stay for that, like show off or whatever, and I'll peace out, because I didn't really see the need to kind of stay after that. So basketball tournament comes, and after the first game we played, I just felt horrible, which in hindsight I was apparently extremely dehydrated, but if you've ever been dehydrated, it sucks, it feels horrible. You basically feel sluggish and just super tired, and I don't know, I had like a massive headache, probably because there was no water in my brain. And so I remember at UCI there's like a stairwell, and underneath the stairwell there's like a little area that you can kind of sit down on. And so I remember, I was like, okay, I felt like I was sick, so I was like, I probably shouldn't be near people. So I'm just gonna lay down and take a nap while everybody's eating lunch. And I didn't want anybody to bother me because I just needed rest. In hindsight, I realized that if a freshman goes and lays in fetal position underneath the stairwell by himself, somebody's gonna check up on me, which they did. Because I remember, as soon as I closed my eyes, I just hear somebody, and she's like, "Hey, can I sit?" I was like, oh. You know, because I just wanted to get some rest. But I didn't want to be rude, so I said sure, and she sat down. We basically had a little mini-moy. She was talking to me, just asking me how I was doing, obviously, because I looked horrible, and she wanted to like check up on me. But then she started asking me about how's school going, you know, how are your classes, whatnot. And then she started asking me about like questions about faith, like what church do you go to, like oh, like do you do Devo? I was like, how's that? And I honestly I couldn't answer that because I had no faith, and I felt like I was in trouble because you know I've been coming to hang out and play basketball under the guise that I wanted to learn more about God. And I remember ultimately she could tell that I was getting like flustered because I couldn't answer the questions. And then she basically just asked me, why are you here? And I was like, oh no. They're going to kick me out of AA. They're not even going to give me a ride back. I thought I was done. That's what I thought. And so before I could answer really, she just said, listen, you can come for the fun. You can come and play basketball with us. You know, we do a lot of fun stuff. We have a lot of really cool people. But if you're not coming to grow with God, if you're not coming to learn more about Jesus, you'll never get as much as you could out of this community, out of this experience, if you're not coming for God. And I felt 100% super convicted because that was what I kind of set out to do when I decided to try out AA in the first place. So I remember she made me pinky promise her to go to my first Bible study. She made me pinky promise to go to church that week, and I did. And those were also very extremely interesting experiences. A Bible study, I forget what we were reading, but I just know that I read the wrong passage. We were going around in a circle, and we were all reading like one verse line by line, and it got to me, I read the wrong verse. The guy next to me was just like, and I just remember I was like, oh, I read what I was supposed to. I remember at church, I went to Calvary my first year, and for those of you who have been to Calvary, they have occasionally a worship set with a little country twang. But for me, it wasn't like a twang, it was more like a gigantic bowl full of countryness, because I've never in my life seen a worship set led by banjo. And with a washboard in the back, that was just beyond me. I think they sang Amazing Grace, but 15 times faster. So it was quite an interesting experience, but I think I continued to go out because something about that, God, intrigued me, it grabbed my attention. And the cool thing is that, I was going because it was comfortable, I was going because I was lonely, and I wanted to have friends. But when I started to actually go and learn more about God, all the relationships that I already had within the fellowship with the people that I'd already met got deeper, they got better. Now I didn't have to just talk about very surface level, how are the Lakers and Warriors doing. I could talk about stuff that's real, that actually matters. And I just remember going throughout the rest of that school year, thinking about, oh yeah, I think I'm a Christian. I don't know, I just thought that. And then going into my second year, I was like, oh, I'm definitely a Christian. Now that I have God, life's gonna be easy. Foolish, I know. But I just remember thinking that because I thought I was Christian, or because I had gone to Bible study or church, that now that I have God, it should be a lot easier. And obviously, life's hard, and if you know God, it's arguably harder. And this life is not meant to be easy. And I remember in my winter quarter of my second year, I just got absolutely rocked by school, by personal stuff, and it was so difficult. I distinctly remember me and my friend, we had walked back home, and we just lay on the ground, literally on the ground, just face up, just crying, because it was oh my gosh, that final was so hard. And we were just exhausted. It was tears of pain and exhaustion, but relief that we were done, but then we knew that we had to study for another one, so it was still more pain. And I just remember looking back on that over spring break and just realizing, dang dude, that sucked. But I don't know how I would have gone through it if I didn't have God. Because the people I studied with, I wouldn't have known them if I didn't go to AA, which was God. The opportunities to even be here, that's all God. Everything about that experience made me realize that yeah, it sucked. Yeah, it was hard, but God was working through it and God helped me get through it. And I was hey, this is no brainer. If this is what it's gonna be like, if I know that I can rely on Him to get me through these things and I can trust in Him, then why wouldn't I want to surrender my life to Him? And so that Easter, I ended up getting baptized, which was awesome. Got baptized with that guy right there. I just remember, from then on, it's not like my life got any easier. Every year I got hit with a new struggle. Every year I had to go through something. I've been told that my misfortunes are entertaining. So I guess if you want to to see or hear entertaining stories about my misfortune, I'm welcome to entertaining with them. But I just remember going through the rest of college and really feeling God's love. I think, I don't know, I think of Romans 5, 3 through 5. Suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, character produces hope. I look back at everything that I've ever gone through in school and in life, and while it was not at all, some of that was not at all enjoyable, I know that I would have to go through that again and again to get to where I am now. Because ultimately God is amazing. And the things that you go through in life, good or bad, He'll still be able to bless you and do work through it. And I think that's what's amazing about Him. You know that when you have God and when you love Him and you know that and you believe that, He can turn any situation that you face into something that's fruitful. And I realize that now that, even in my body has been physically broken numerous times, last week with the scooter. I've been mentally broken, I've been emotionally, I've been broken down a million times, but God has this amazing ability to take what's broken and build it back up strong. And I just think about that verse, the theme verse of this year is inside out. And the character, that's that kind of inside out thing where, yes, life is hard, and yes, we'll face struggles, but as we get to know God and we experience His love, we're able to have faith in Him to remain strong in those circumstances, and ultimately that builds us up from the inside, so that we become so confident in who He is and what He can do in our lives that it's just a no-brainer that there's nothing to worry about. And that's what that hope is. At the very end, the character produces hope, and that hope is not a, oh my gosh, I hope that I get an A on this test, or I hope I don't miss the bus, or I hope the Kings make the playoffs because they've sucked for the past 50 years. I don't know. It's not a hope that has a level of uncertainty to it. The hope that God provides is a confident expectation of what He can do and what His promises are capable of. It's not something that you have to doubt or worry about. When you have faith in God, that hope that He fills you up with, that confidence, that's real, and that's unshakable. And I just look back at my life and seeing who I was then, and who I am now. And, I can see now how He loved me so much even before I knew Him. That glass cup, that blowing over, I don't know how that's physically possible. The only way I can personally explain that is God just rescuing me from myself and loving on me before I even knew Him, loving on me before I even thought to love Him, And that's the same thing with all of you. Your testimonies, however grand or ordinary you might think they are, God has done amazing things in your life that He's equipped you with to be able to share to further His kingdom, And there's things that you're probably not even aware of that He's been doing or is doing or has done. The seeds that He's planted in you, it's all there. I think as we grow and mature as Christians, we become more aware of that. But obviously, in the moment, it doesn't feel like it. In the moment, it just felt like there's a glass cup that tipped. But now I look back, it's like God literally physically saving me from myself so that I could actually have an opportunity to walk with Him. And I just think, looking back, He took a broken person, a sad, lonely kid, and He can do that with me, He can do that with all of us, He can do that with anybody. He took me, somebody that, I didn't really think I was capable of much, and I've gotten to do some amazing things with and for Him. I've gone to disciple people, I've gone to serve on leadership in this fellowship, I've gone to learn to lead worship, I've gone to pray over people for things that are really hard. I've gone to do amazing things for God, and it's only because of the things that He did for me before. And it's been such an amazing experience as I've grown in my faith to get to know Him, because I feel like, there's always more to Him. We yearn to be loved, we yearn to be satisfied, and the awesome thing about it is that God will always be able to do that for us. It's not something fleeting, your grades or the next job or promotion or where to live or how much money you make. Like those are all very temporary things that can be goals, but ultimately like that won't fulfill you at the very end of the day, and only God can. And I just look at that and I think, you know, for you guys especially, how real is that truth? Like you don't have to remember my message today, you don't have to remember my story, that's fine. But I would hope that if anything, you would look at yourself and ask yourself, that simple truth, like God loves me, how real is that to you? Because it's easy to go through this life and live off of each other's faith. Like I'm going to be completely real with you guys. I look back on my college years and I think part of my faith was founded because of everybody else. I did things because it was what everybody else did. And as soon as I graduated, when I'm not surrounded by my 30 to 40 closest friends that are like 5 minutes away, it became really hard to actually want to follow God anymore because there's nobody that I get to do it with. But the thing is, like, it's your walk with God, and you're responsible for it. And I just hope that you guys, as you're getting to know each other and as you're getting plugged into churches or small groups, like, that's awesome, that's fantastic. Those are tools to help you. But ultimately, you know, I would encourage you to, like, really look yourself in the mirror and ask, like, is this what I want? Like, am I 100% going to give my life to God? Because that's what he's asking. Because if you give 100% of yourself to him, he will give 100% of himself to you. You know, the thing is, I remember watching a sermon online, and it said something along the lines of, salvation is like the minimum level of blessing that God wants to give to us. And that kind of blew my mind, because it's like, you know, salvation is like literally life or death to us. Like, without that, we have nothing. So the fact that that's the bare minimum, you know, that's supposed to be like shocking to us. And sometimes, you know, it's easy to go numb to those kind of things. And so I really encourage you guys, as you are going through school, you know, I know that school's hard. I know that life throws stuff at you, but your priorities and like where your heart's at, I'd encourage you, you know, to seek God in that, because, you know, he can turn somebody like me to bring me here. You know, he can do amazing things in your life. And I'm not trying to be preaching, I'm not trying to sell you Christianity. I'm sure, you know, some of you grew up in the church, you know this, but I think we live in a world where it's full of distractions, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in the busyness of day-to-day life, you know. And I know that busyness and hurry of life is kind of the new epidemic for us. You know, we pride ourselves on being busy, and sometimes we need to take a step back and look in the mirror and say, like, I need to slow down. I need to spend time with the one that really matters. I don't know. I could keep going on, but that's my story. And if anything, I hope you just feel encouraged to see or hear about somebody who this transformative love, like inside-out transformation that you're supposed to be learning about this year. You know, you can see it through me. You can see it through those around you. I know that sometimes reading the Bible, it's hard to relate to something century farmers. I know that. But it might be easier to relate to one of like each other. And so, you know, tonight I encourage you to, you know, look in the mirror and just challenge yourself. You know, like what's really important? Is it God or is it something else? And I would encourage you, if it's something else, to maybe reevaluate, because he's got so much to offer us. He can take, like the worship songs we just sang, he can take broken things and restore them and make them new. But that's all I have for today. I know it was relatively quick. I don't have any discussion questions because that would have been weird to ask you questions. So I will just pray for the worship team. They can, I guess, come on up and I can pray for us all, and we can finish up. All right. Father God, I thank you so much for this opportunity that you've given me to share with this group of people, God. Thank you for your son's sacrifice, God. Thank you that because of what he did on the cross, we can even be here together, that we can experience the joy that comes with fellowship, God. And I pray that as we leave here tonight, whatever fun we have, it would be focused on you. And ultimately, we're seeking to glorify you with our actions. That I pray that these people would refocus and recenter their busy lives on you, that you would continue to convict them to make you the number one in their life, that your Holy Spirit would come and meet them where they're at. You know, like we learned a couple weeks ago, you just simply have to come, and you'll meet us where we're at, God. We thank you for that. So I pray for this group of people, and I pray that as they continue to go through this year, that you would reveal more of yourself to them, that your word and your presence would be upon them, and that they would grow closer to one another, and ultimately the outpouring of love from this fellowship would just be tenfold. That the love that you give us, we would just try to replicate it, even an ounce of it, that we could bless this campus, that we could bless those around us, and live fruitfully for you, God. But please bless this night. Please keep us safe. Please be with us with whatever games or shenanigans we have planned for the rest of the night. Bless the fast food we're about to ingest. I don't know, God. Whatever we do, bless it and be with us. We love you so much.